Welcome to the halfway point of the Down Home Christmas. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Let me open up this chat so I can see everybody. Hello, hello. Happy Sunday, everybody. Yeah, we're halfway through this series, halfway through the blocks for this sampler quilt. I want to invite you to stick around through this series as we make each one of the 12 different blocks of this quilt. It's so great to see you. Hello, everybody. Hello. We're going to give it a few minutes so everybody has a chance to jump in before we get started. Judith, you're so welcome. I will always know you as Pookie, though, but remind me next time we Zoom to change that for you. We had so much fun in the Zoom last night. If you're on Patreon, I have uploaded the replay, so you can go over to Patreon and catch the replay. Hello, everybody. So before we get started, and as everyone's getting notified and jumping in and getting situated, Vicki, I believe, is hosting a Zoom over on the Creative Crew this evening. If you want to sew your blocks this evening with Vicki and everyone else who is there, I'm pretty sure, I'm like 99% sure that she is hosting a Zoom this evening. And if you're on Patreon, mark your calendars and don't forget this coming Wednesday of this coming next week, we're going to do a thread painting workshop. Monday, I will be uploading a PDF for you of a daffodil, and that's the project we're going to be thread painting in that workshop. And then we're generally here about an hour, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. But if you're on the Creative Crew, and you want to share pictures of the progress of the Down Home Christmas quilt that you're making, when we're done with today's block number 6, and we're just chit-chatting, y'all, I'm going to go over and do a live show and tell of your progress. So if you want your blocks to show up in the end of today's live, head on over to Creative Crew. I've put an announcement at the top of our page. Comment in that announcement. I'm not scrolling through the Creative Crew page. I feel like that's a safe zone for the crew members, but the invitation at the very top of the page, that's where you'll post, and that is what I'm sharing at the end of today's live. So if you want everybody to see how you're coming along with this quilt, we're going to take a look if you want to share. And we might make that a daily thing. We might do it every other day. But I thought it would be fun for everyone to see the colors that you're using, right? Y'all know the colors I'm using. Hello. Hello, everybody. Mimsy and Diane, thank y'all so much for moderating and keeping an eye on the chat. Yesterday, we had a little bit of an instance of a wonky doodle commenter, and Miss Maureen was able to mute them. So thank y'all so much for keeping an eye on the chat. And that takes a lot of stress off of me while we're live. I think that's all the announcements. Y'all, today we're doing the Friendship Star block. I'm going to switch my camera over. There you go. We're on block number 6. This is the Friendship Star. Now, if you were live with us during the Happy at Home series last year, this block is going to look really familiar to you because we did make this block one time together already. So in this square, you see all the measurements of the pieces you need for today. Today we're using 3 colors, and I'm going to be using a blue. My blue is very dark. It almost appears to be black on camera. Once again. And but it is a blue. It's like a midnight blue. It's got a lot of black in it, but it's blue. This is the same border I have cut for my small border on this quilt. So it's going to tie in with the border. I'm using the barn red for the very center and a light cream color for the points of my star today. So 3 colors. And we're going to be making half square triangles today. This time, we're making 4 half square triangles out of 2 pieces of fabric. So we're making 4 at a time. Dari has a question. Do you suggest that I take some photos of my fabric choices and have the crew help me out on what to do with all to do this quilt? Dari, I think if you're looking for help picking out fabrics, the Creative Crew is a wonderful place to get help with that. Y'all, I'm just going to brag on the Creative Crew for just a second before we jump in and start sewing. If you have questions like, what fabrics to use or how to do something, I have not seen many posts in the lifetime of Creative Crew where someone has asked for help where they did not get some kind of suggestions and help, or at least a starting place of where to go find help. Everybody is so helpful, so generous with their time and their knowledge. And if you would like help picking out your fabric choices, Dari, I think that's the perfect place to go. Yes. Good morning, everybody. Vicki, thank you so much for moderating today with Diane and Mimsy. Vicki said, this getting up for the live is kicking my butt. Vicki, that's because you stay up. You're a night owl. You're a night owl. You should have slept in today. You should have slept in today and just caught this on the replay. Oh, Vicki said, I messaged the quilt shop in Vermont and asked them to pick out some fat quarters for a scrappy patriotic quilt, and they were so helpful. Sheila, I'm so glad you said that because I've been wondering since I mentioned them a couple videos ago. I've been wondering if anybody called them and how it went when they called. I'm so glad that they were helpful for you. I know that when I was there in person, the lady checking me out, and whenever I had questions, she was super nice and friendly. That's not always the case when you're shopping, is it? But yeah, I'm so glad to hear that. I sent them the link to your video. Yay! Maybe they'll check out the little shout out to their quilt shop. All right, y'all. I'm going to jump in and get started. Let's just take a look at all these pieces. I have pre-cut them today. For the barn red piece right in the middle, that's 4.5 by 4.5. 4.5 by 4.5. That's the fabric I'm using today. For the blue fabric, we're going to need 4 E-pieces. Those go right in the 4 corners. So you need 4 that are cut 4.5 by 4.5. I have those here. And then to make the stars, so it's the middle block on each one of these rows. To make those half square triangles, we're going to be using 2 pieces that are cut 8 inches by 8 inches. You need the dark one and you need the light one. Right, and I do have the salvage edges for these 2 fabrics because I don't know if you've seen these 2 yet. I don't know if you have. This blue one, Wit and Wisdom by Kim Deal for Henry Glass Company, and the pattern is 1426. That's this one. And then this light one is So Nice to Be Home by Jacqueline Patton for Red Rooster Fabrics. And unfortunately, this was a fat quarter, and that salvage edge was cut off, so I don't know the number that follows that, but maybe that'll give you some direction and a starting place to look if you're going to try to find this pretty fabric. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off by making the half square triangles first. We're going to knock that out first today. And again, we're making 4 at a time. And what we're going to do is we're going to lay these 2 fabrics right on top of each other with the pretty sides facing each other. And y'all, we're going to line these raw edges up as perfect as we can. Just like that. And to keep them perfect, just going to throw a couple pins to keep them all nice and lined up as we're sewing everything at the sewing machine. Let me put one more in there for safe measure. So in this method, instead of sewing diagonal, we're going to be sewing a 1/4 inch little frame on all 4 sides on these 2 pieces. Okay? I'm going to switch you over to the sewing machine. I have a nice full bobbin. I just changed out my bobbin this morning. And we are setting our sewing machine up at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I will use a full 1/4 inch seam allowance while making this half square triangle unit. However, when I switch over to sewing this block together, I will be using a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance. And we're sewing edge to edge, all the way from one edge to the other on all 4 sides. I like to just sew right off the edge and then spin it around and keep on going. And we have one more side left to do. So that goes by pretty quick, right? Where are you, thread? There you go. Okay, so I made these pieces a little bit bigger because we're going to cut them apart, and then that's going to give us our 4 half square triangles, and then we're going to square those up to 4.5 by 4.5. Okie doke. These are going to be a little bit bigger than 4.5 inches, but we're going to square them up and trim them once we have them separated. Just trying to move that over a little bit. I like to just set those seams and make sure it's laying nice and flat before I cut this apart. There we go. It's laying nice and flat. So we're going to cut this unit 2 times. We're cutting from corner to corner. Corner to corner, just like this. Nice and slow with that rotary cutter. And then we're going to cut these triangles right in half. And I just like to line up this raw edge right here to a line on my mat, and this little corner tip of the triangle to another line so that I know I'm cutting it nice and straight. I think that's the most accurate way for me to cut these triangles apart. It may not be the fastest way to do it, but I get the most accurate results cutting them like that. So we've got one more. Sometimes I do things the slow way. only because I've learned that the slow way is the most accurate for me. All right, so I think that's all of our cutting except for trimming these up. So we're going to go ahead and press these half square triangles. I'll be pressing mine over to the dark side today. I'm not going to press them open today. I'm just going to press them right on over to the dark side. Sharon said, can I get a kit for the Christmas quilt? I wish you could, but I did not put together kits of the fabrics for this quilt. And that's a little bit out of my comfort realm, putting together fabric kits. I haven't done that. I've put together journal kits before, but I think putting together kits is a little bit out of my comfort zone. Look how pretty that is. Hazel said, is that your bobbin in the machine rattling around? I can hear mine does that too. Sometimes it does, Miss Hazel, depending on what thread I have in there. Sometimes it does rattle. I have been known, Hazel, to use the wrong bobbins in my Juki. I've mixed up my Singer patchwork bobbins, which are also clear, with my Juki bobbins, and there is a slight difference. So if I accidentally grab one of the wrong bobbins, it makes a heck of a noise. It makes all kinds of noise. Dixie Doodles said, great way to do yeah, 4 at a time. That's really quick, right? Louise says she's trying to catch up with her squares. I hope you're not rushing. I hope you take your time, even if you fall behind, because life is busy, y'all. We all have 50 million other things to do today, right? If you don't have time to make your blocks, I hope you know that I want you to take your time and enjoy it and not stress out trying to keep up. Because that can just suck the joy right out of a project. It really can. Oh, I folded the light side up. I sure did. All right, that's okay. We're going to go with it. See what happens when I'm distracted? It is what it is. We're going to go ahead and trim these down because I want you to see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 1/4. And we need them to be 4 1/2. And I deliberately changed the 2 pieces we started off with to 8 inches so that if yours is a little wonky, you have some room to adjust it and trim it up nice and square, right? So that's what we're going to do now. We need these to be 4 1/2 by 4 1/2. And I'm just going to use my little OmniGrid ruler here. I'm lining up that diagonal line on my ruler to the seam running across. And I'm going to trim up both sides, right? Whoops. Did that cut? I think it's time for a new blade in my cutter. And now we're going to flip it and do the true size 4 1/2 by 4 1/2. And we're going to repeat this step for the remaining 3 half square triangles, but there it is, nice and square, 4 1/2 by 4 1/2. Yeah, I thought it would be awesome to showcase some of your progress at the end of today's live. So I'm looking forward to that. When I say Christmas in July, if you scroll through Creative Crew in the last couple of days, it looks like Christmas in July. It has been so much fun to see how everybody's doing. All right, so there's our second one. And y'all, this takes me a few minutes because I'm really trying to focus and make sure I cut it nice and straight, right? What size do the half square triangles end up being when done? Well, right now we're cutting them to 4.5 by 4.5, right? But they're going to end up finished in the block at 4 inches. I don't usually like saying the finished size a lot because I don't want someone to accidentally cut these half square triangles at 4 inches, right? Because if you did that, your block is not going to work. But finished in the block, 4 inches. We're cutting at 4.5. And this is our last one. There we go. So we do have a little bit of waste in what we're cutting off. However, our half square triangles are exactly 4.5 by 4.5. So at this point, we can start laying out this block, y'all. Okie doke. I'm going to have this here just as a reference because I want you to see the block. We have our 4 half square triangles. We have our 4 solid blues. Those go in the corner. Not like that. There you go. Our 4 corners. I'm going to scoot this up here in just a second. Let's move that out of the way then. There we go. Our 4 corners. Just trying to make sure it's on the screen. The barn red goes right in the middle. And then, there we go. We're going to have our white triangles go like this. And dun, 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 like this. And like that. And like that. So now what we have is a 9 patch, right? Oh, that's going to be so pretty. Oh, yes, that's going to be gorgeous. That's going to be gorgeous. So at this point, we have our 9 patch, and y'all have sewn with me several times. We've ended up with blocks just like this. We're going to be flipping this second block over. Right onto the first block. And there's a small, slim chance that when I'm bringing everything over there, that I'm going to mess up and sew the wrong side. So I'm just going to make myself a little mark, although it doesn't really much matter with this middle one, does it? But I'm going to make myself a little mark so I can keep track of which side I'm supposed to be sewing on at the sewing machine. So we're going to sew these 3 seams, and then I'm just going to stay there. And then we're going to be bringing over the companion pieces, the remaining 3 pieces, to finish off these rows. Then we'll press the 3 individual rows, okay? Now, my sewing machine right now is set at an accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance. For my fabric, matched with the thread that I'm using for this quilt, I know that I need to use a scant 1/4 inch, so I don't want to forget to move that needle over. I have the little card, but I've also counted how many clicks that takes to move over to meet that line. It's 5 clicks for me. It might be different for you. 5 little clicks to get my scant 1/4 inch. So now I know my blocks will be just right. Bringing over the pieces, matching up those raw edges, and we're going to start sewing. There's our first one. And our second. And our third. Now I'm just going to separate these blocks and put them right back down in order. And we're going to be adding that third one, right? So we can open this up. Finger press that right on over, nice and flat. And I'm bringing over the top corner on the right side. We're going to add that one first. Now we have our middle row. I'm going to finger press that over. This middle row is probably the one that you need to check before you sew it together. It should be aligned just like this when you flip over this last piece. And on this bottom row, your star piece should be in the middle, and we're bringing over the bottom right-hand corner block. And now all 3 of our rows are together. Now I am going to go ahead and give these a press before we join these rows. Because at this point, we just have 2 seams left to finish up this block. And I like to nest my seams, meaning my seams are going in opposite directions. So there's my 3 rows. For this top row, I'm going to press my seams towards the corners. Vicki, I hate to hear that you're having such a time. I'm so sorry to hear that. Diane57 says, I love Christmas. I'm hoping that doing this Christmas quilt early this year will put me in more of a Christmassy spirit by the time Christmas gets here. So this row, I've pressed my seams towards the outside. This row, I'm going to press them towards that middle block. Tommy, I laminated them with my Scotch laminator. All right, so those seams go towards the middle. These seams are going to go towards the outside blocks on this bottom row. Yep, I have one of those Scotch laminators. And I cut them apart and then put them in one laminating sheet and laminated the one sheet with the 4 cards in there and then cut apart the laminated cards. And then I punched a hole with the hole punch. Of course, you don't have to do that. You could print them on cardstock. They would last a really long time if you printed them out on cardstock too. Or regular printer paper. That works. Okie doke. Now that my seams are nested, that should help me a little bit, right? Meeting these points right there at those 4 intersections. What size is the finished quilt? Anne asked. Let me think. 72 by 90. I think that's the finished size of the top. I did miss Valeria. Go to Patreon. And under the post that has the Zoom, it looks like it says Zoom on it. I have left the link for that laminator right there for you since you asked for it. Okie doke, y'all. 2 more seams. We're going to be flipping the middle right on over. We're going to sew that seam. And while we're still there, I will bring over this 3rd piece. Just matching that up. Oh, ha! Matching that up. Setting those seams nested together. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to make sure those are nested together. And line up the rest of this block. We're going to open this up right here, y'all. Yes, look at those points. That looks nice. Tiny, tiny, tiny bit off. And we're bringing in this bottom piece right here. And I'm just going to check it to make sure it's going the right way. And then flip it right on over. Come down to the second seam. And that is sewing together the friendship star. We're going to give this a press and take a look at our finished block. Lisa, did you starch before cutting? Connie, these fabrics are so nice and kind of thick and really easy to work with. So I'm not starching before I cut. However, if they're a little flimsy and kind of stretchy and a little bit difficult to work with, I do recommend starching before cutting. Sometimes I do, sometimes I do not. I just want to see which way these seams want to go. They kind of want to go towards the outside of the block, so I'm just going to press them that way. Of course, you could press your seams open if you want, right? I just like to get it started from the back. And then I'll do a final press on the front. These little seams might lay flatter for you if you do press this seam open. So just know that. If you want a little bit of a flatter block, press these final seams at least open to get a little bit of a flatter intersections right where those points come together. I'm okay with the little thickness right there, so I'm pressing to the side. And now I'm just going to flip it over and press one more time from the front. Ew, look at that. Look at that. Wow. That's not as bad as it looked over at the sewing machine. Notice I'm not forcing and rubbing the iron on this block. I'm actually picking it up a little bit and just setting it down. You don't want to start scooting that iron on your block. That's one reason why you might end up with a little bit of a skewed, out of shape, squared block. Just press. That's it. And there she is, y'all. Ooh, she's pretty. And right at 12.5 and right at 12.5. So my scant 1/4 inch saves the day once again. Isn't she lovely? Very pretty. Very, very pretty. Thank you. Thank you. So this finishes up the Friendship Star block in block number 6. So I know Sunday is really busy and you might have a million things to do. So we're done for today. I want you to stick around though if you're just hanging out with me for a minute because we're going to do a show and tell. But before you go, tomorrow's block is block number 7, the ribbon weave. We're working with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different colors tomorrow. And these are the pieces you need to cut for tomorrow's block. We have made the ribbon weave together before. However, I think that was a smaller block when we did it. I think this is one of the blocks that I resized. I can't quite remember, but that's what we're doing tomorrow, so I hope you join me. Vicky's is doing a Zoom tonight. She is. Yay. Mary Lou, I had shared the link to the Scotch Laminator over on Patreon. So here's what you can do. I've used that laminator in several different videos. Trying to think. I think in the pin cushion, the phone stand pin cushion, I used my laminator, and I believe there is a link in the description box of that video. The phone stand pin cushion. I am pretty sure that I have put a link to my laminator in the description box of that video. Oh, and Mimsy's going to be able to join us tomorrow too. Yay! All right. Okay, who's ready for a show and tell? I'm hoping, I haven't checked, but I'm hoping that somebody has shared the progress of their quilt so far on Creative Crew. Again, we are not scrolling through the page of Creative Crew. I really feel like that's a safety place, and I want people comfortable posting pictures there. However, we're just looking at the very top announcement on the page where the invitation was. All right? So just know I'm going to be looking over here and not my phone. So if you have questions specific for me, hold on to them for a minute. And we're going to go take a look at the progress. Hopefully there's some pictures there. I hope. All right, my screen's going to look a little bit crazy for a second as we transition over to the Creative Crew. Here we are. And I'm going to refresh this page. And minimize that for a second so we can see everything. And I just want to check to make sure it looks good on the screen before we continue. Mary Lou, you just saw this for the first time. I want you to open up the description box of this video. There's a link. This pattern is free. So I want you to grab it. It's in the description box of this video. And all of these videos are saved in a playlist. And they're all grouped together. So you could go back and start at video 1 and work your way through. We're halfway through right now. We're going live every single day for 12 days making this sampler. All right, it looks good. We're going to scroll down. Yay, we have 5. We have 5 shares to take a look at. First up, we have Vicky. Vicky Hibbs says first 2 done. Let's put that up on the screen. Don't you love the reds? Vicky, you're doing so good. Look at Vicky's points in her 16 patch. Way to go, Vicky. And I just have to say that I am always a huge fan of fabric that has text and words and writing on it. So you know I love the light fabric in your 16 patch. Isn't that gorgeous? Yes, good job, Vicky. Vicky has been joining in the Zooms. We have 2 Vickies, so not to be confused, but both Vickies have been in most of the Zooms. Next up, we have Jane. I believe Jane is So North in the chat. I could be wrong, but I believe So North here in the live chat is Jane. I could be wrong. Jane said, my blocks are done. Now to join them together. No applique for me, she says. I substituted some panel squares and an additional block. So she's not doing the applique portion. And she has swapped out those blocks for some different other blocks. Look how pretty that is. Oh, yep, she said So North. That's her. That's Jane. Jane, and I'm so glad that even though you might not prefer to do applique, or it might not be your favorite thing to do, that you didn't let it stop you from doing this quilt and you just swapped out those blocks for something else. I'm so glad. Isn't that gorgeous with the white sashing? Oh my goodness. Yes. I'm going to tell you what, that sashing, the way we're doing it in this quilt, Really puts that nice border around each one of our blocks without even trying, doesn't it? Sheila, this is a special show and tell. This is not a creative show and tell. This is a special show and tell. Next up, we have Diana, and she said, my down-home Christmas quilt so far. Loving all these blocks. Look at there, look at there. Oh my goodness. Wow, she's 3 blocks ahead of me. Look at that. Diana, this is gorgeous. Isn't that so pretty? Yes, all your points are matching too. Y'all are getting so good. Yes. I like that little pop of gold in the ribbon weave block. I really like that. And then we have Dina. Dina said, here are the blocks I have so far. I added another 16 patch to give into my OCD of matching colors. All right, there you go. So she has swapped out and she's done 2 16 patches. Wow. I love how you fussy cut the center of the churn dash. Look at that. And Dina, instead of going scrappy with her log cabin, so that gives you an idea too, because I went scrappy with my log cabin, and you can see in my video and my block up on the wall what it would look like scrappy. But here you can also see what it would look like if you used the same fabrics, right? Still gorgeous, just a different look. That's one of the reasons I like to show the progress of everybody else. In case someone's sitting over on the side trying to make up their mind what to do, scrappy or not, you could see different examples. Valerie, I'll show you a close-up of the pattern here in just a second. If I forget, remind me. Good job, Dina. Next up, we have Nita, and this is our last show and tell for today. Miss Nita's progress. Don't you love the blue that Nita is using, especially on her friendship star? That just kind of like glows. I love it. It also looks like Nita fussy cut the center of her churn dash as well. Wow. Nita, all of your points are matching. Look at you go. Look at you go. Oh, Nita's here. She said, I'm going to redo the 16 patch. Why are you going to redo that? Why? That one's so pretty. Are you going to use different fabrics? I really like those. I like the holly and the light fabric. Oh, she said she don't like the colors. Well, hold on. I'm not going to stop you from redoing the 16 patch if you want to do it. But I would hold off a second. If you're not happy about the colors, try to reuse those colors in another block so it ties in to something else in the quilt, and then you might change your mind. You might change your mind. I think it's fantastic. She said, I don't think they match. If you tie it into another block somewhere in the next 6 blocks, I think it would be perfect. But that's just me. That's just me. All right, so I want to thank you so much. So Sheila said she felt like she missed out on the show and tell. Just to let you know, Sheila, this morning I thought about at the end of today's live showing the Down Home Christmas progress. So there's an announcement at the top of Creative Crew for that invitation, and that's all we're doing for the show and tell. And I might do that every day or every other day. I'm going to remove this from the announcements and put up a new one for tomorrow if we do that. So y'all, those of you on Creative Crew, let me switch this over. Keep an eye on the announcement section. Keep an eye on that announcement section. Although I do leave some posts there for several days at a time, whenever there's something going on Creative Crew, it'll be posted, at least from me, it'll be pinned right to the top so that you don't miss it if you go over there. So just keep an eye on that so that you can stay current with what we're doing. You get the news and all the fun stuff. Yeah, everyone's doing such a good job, aren't they? Yes, they are. Okay, so we're going to just take a look at this pattern real quick. Valerie, that is Facebook. It's on the Creative Crew. Creative Crew Facebook page. With this pattern, Miss Valerie, I really encourage you, because I'm not going to go through all of the measurements with you in this video, because we covered all of this in block 1. And all of the videos are grouped together in a playlist. So you can just save the playlist and just click a button and come to all the videos grouped together. But yes, I give you how much fabric you need to make the quilt. I break down the cutting portions, the sashing and cornerstones, the 2 borders, the binding, and then each one of the blocks, all right, is broken down into individual pieces. Individual pieces. So each one of the blocks, that tells you your pieces. But just know that this fabric here is included in your yardage for the quilt. So if you're like, I'm going to go buy fabric for this quilt, all of these blocks, it's all added into the yardage of this quilt. Okay? But I do encourage you, if you missed the first video, I break it down. And that's one of the reasons why that video is a little bit longer, because we go over like each one of those things. So if you have questions, maybe that might be helpful. Vicki, you think they're going to keep him in the hospital? Well, that might be the best place for him so that he can get the best care and the help. So keep us updated on that. You're so welcome, Diana. Vicki, you shared it. Thank you so much. Yeah, Mimsy said, don't forget, if you haven't joined the Creative Crew group yet and you want to join in, when you hit join, there's 2 security questions, and we don't like to turn anybody away. But if you don't answer those 2 questions, we're not going to let you in. It's not like, it's a small vetting process, but it does keep the riffraff out, okay? Even then, we still get some posts that we have to take care of every once in a while. Right, Maureen? But if you don't answer those 2 security questions within a few hours or a day, we're going to delete your request and you have to go back and ask again. So if you asked to get in the Creative Crew before and we didn't let you in, that's why. Just go back and answer those 2 questions, and then you come on in. Oh, Anitra, we're still live. But yep, you're coming in at the end. Oh, travel safe. Travel safe, Crafty Owl. I want to thank y'all all so much for joining me today. And in case you missed it, that's our finished friendship star. I can go ahead and put that on the wall behind me, right in that blank space. And tomorrow is the ribbon weave block number 7. So I hope you have a fantastic rest of your afternoon. I look forward to seeing you there. Before you go, if you can just give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, it's the same thing. It works the same way. So either one, thank you so much. And if you shared this video, that would be super helpful. Thank you so much. I don't like asking for the share, but since this is a free pattern, and if your friends want to follow along, it's not going to cost them anything, I'm going to ask you to share it. It doesn't hurt to ask, right? If you can share the videos, that would be awesome. All right, everybody. Oh, Mary Lou's off to open a Facebook account. Even if you just use Facebook to join the creative crew, I think you're going to find it very enjoyable. Okay, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm off to load a quilt on the long arm and to finish a daffodil project. Bye, everybody.